What makes this scene so memorable and uplifting? Although the camera work and Hans Zimmer's brilliance can be commended, these shots go one step further. The genius of Christopher Nolan is that he blends the mass audience appeal of blockbusters with the art house sensibilities that many tend to dismiss. What this results in are narratives constructed primarily around the characters themselves, which are thematically and stylistically similar, garnished with the odd dashes of Hollywood spectacle thrown in here and there. Looking over the past couple years or so, the oversaturation of superhero flicks and action blockbusters focused solely to sell tickets is frankly quite alarming. Literally nothing to offer thematically or character-wise, it's easy to pinpoint the directors who put in the extra mile during pre-production and the ones that pump out corporate art for the sake of the film business. Out of the top 10 highest grossing films of 2014, Interstellar was the only film that gave the audience a cerebral experience, with it being the only original film among the sequels, prequels, reboots and comic book films. So the question is, what exactly does Christopher Nolan bring to the table that no others dare to? What sets apart Batman Begins from any other superhero film? What's so unique and different about Memento compared to any other perplexing thriller?
And here we go.
Well, firstly, all his films include a protagonist who struggles to perceive reality and the world around them. As the protagonist plays an integral role in moving the story forward, the viewer is on the receiving end of this very uncertainty. This leads me nicely onto the character of Leonard Shelby, the driving force of Memento's narrative. The aspect of Leonard having temporary memory loss puts into perspective the idea of an unreliable narrator. As the audience, it's hard for us to take heed of his claims, but at the same time, his vulnerability to the surrounding characters makes us fall directly into his shoes. Pretend living a life where you can't remember anything for minutes on end. That's what engrossed me into Leonard's world, a world where nothing is stable and apparent to his fragmented mind. And with the non-chronological structure of the film, it really pertains to the idea of searching for one's true self.
And in structural terms, I was very interested in trying to tell the story from a very subjective point of view, really try and show you the way this character sees the world, and use a dislocated narrative structure that basically runs backwards, in effect, to put you in the head of this character and really experience some of his confusion and ambiguity.
The narrative structure of the film emphasizes his inability to remember, as well as his need to tell his narrative by moving between a backwards and forwards storyline, intercutting at key points in the plot. Nolan creates a situation which asks the audience to actively participate in forming meaning by watching carefully to make sense of the time and status of each character. Nolan aims to present Leonard believing that he is a righteous avenger, and constant introduction of contradictory information helps to highlight the conflict between his internal and social identity.
So you lie to yourself to be happy. There's nothing wrong with that. We all do it. Who cares if there's a few little details you'd rather not remember?
At the end of the film, which is the story's beginning, it's left ambiguous whether Leonard is truly in control of his identity construction, or is once again being manipulated by the forces he is surrounded by. As in Nolan's other works, especially Batman Begins and Dark Knight, Memento concludes with a close-up of Leonard, placing him at the center of the narrative.
I have to believe in a world outside my own mind. I have to believe that my actions still have meaning, even if I can't remember them. I have to believe that when my eyes are closed, the world's still there. Do I believe the world's still there? Is it still out there?
He rejects the evidence around him, despite saying that he is still part of the world, making the audience decide whether it's Leonard or Teddy that is correct, or if neither is telling the truth. The shot composition of placing his eyes at the focal point throughout the monologue implies that Leonard's truth is only in his mind and not in the larger world. Nolan suggests truth and identity are both complex and uncertain.
Now just take it and go.
I said you were.
What Nolan did next was take the stereotypical archetype of a superhero and continue to explore the theme of identity within the Batman legend. He takes the issues of dual personas and takes it one step further in the realm of generic comic book movies during the early 2000s. Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises gives time to observe the internal and external struggles of Bruce Wayne in an attempt to determine what he believes to be his authentic identity. Bruce Wayne's performance as Batman helps to make him into a more complete person. The role of Batman is essentially another form of Bruce's identity, which helps him become the person he is, rather than someone completely separate. In a pivotal scene in Batman Begins, Bruce comments,
People need dramatic examples to shake them out of apathy, and I can't do that as Bruce Wayne. As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible.
He realizes that he needs to put on a new identity beyond his own to become what he needs to be, which eventually evolves into a new form of the Bruce Wayne identity. Nolan uses frequent flashbacks throughout the early part of the story so that Bruce's past and present are woven together with a clear distinction on what set Bruce Wayne down the path of justice and order. The move from the Narrows in Begins to the clean, classy urban landscapes of Chicago enables the audience to really relate to the characters and situations more. It's real people in a real place. It's not only the hero that has this problem. Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow, Harvey Dent and the Joker all show glimpses of another persona that inherently controls their character. The way each film starts off with a character recounting the villain of the film, akin to that of a mythical legend, places the Batman mythos firmly in the society we live in today.
My name is merely Ducard, but I speak for Ra's al Ghul, a man greatly feared by the criminal underworld.
So why do they call him the Joker? I heard he wears makeup. Makeup? Yeah, to scare people. You know, war paint.
They work for the mercenary. The mask of the man. Bane.
Nolan presents the character of the Joker as a mysterious persona, with his past only being visited through vague anecdotes of his scar. The lack of a specific origin for the Joker contrasts with Bruce Wayne, which poses the men as opposites. Batman is a distinct beginning and alternate persona, while the Joker is undefined, preaching chaos as a unifying theory.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
District Attorney Harvey Dent is the most poignant and important example of Nolan's fascination with identity. The so-called White Knight, a pure statue whose job is to clean the streets of crime, can be so easily drenched in villainy that killing for him is the only form of vindication. Like his favoured coin he constantly flips, Harvey has two distinct and opposite sides, and the tragedy of his character is that the dark side ultimately gobbles up the light. There's always a little bad in Harvey's good, a touch of shadow in the midst of his light. The posters for the film also suggest the duplicitous nature of the main characters. In The Dark Knight Rises, Bruce's soul is in decay. He is tested, broken, and brought back up to the hero that Gotham needs. After a crippling defeat at Bane's hands, Bruce comes to a realization that he became the Batman prematurely. He sacrificed both mental and physical discipline to become what he once was 8 years ago. The pit symbolizes the depths a human goes through on a spiritual level, which leads him to experience his deepest arc of personality development, ranging from reckless confidence to blinding anger, to a very mortal fear of death. He leaves the pit with a new sense of conviction, as well as a steeled mind and body that is finally ready to confront Bane on an even platform.
So you came back to die with your city?
No. I came back to stop you. Are you watching closely?
Moving away from the Dark Knight trilogy, not only does The Prestige explore the theme of identity, but also the idea of self-deception, that we many times suppress inside of us what we know to be the truth. The non-linear narrative told through flashbacks reveals the story of two magicians who use illusion to their advantage to outdo one another. In the end, it's revealed to the audience that Borden and Angier are not what they seem. Both have multiple versions of themselves who use their identity to mislead each other while following their drive to become the best in the world. Both magicians accept the price of either not having a specific identity, sharing with someone else, or changing it whenever the task demands it, be it by crippling oneself, sacrificing their own life for their brother, or constantly committing suicide by drowning their own existence again and again and again. Angier and Borden never fully understood the concepts. Their obsession against each other destroyed the people they loved and ultimately themselves. Inception and Interstellar deal with identity on a much larger scale. On the surface, Inception is about a man who tries to cope with a personal loss by creating an illusion for himself in which things take a different turn. He wishes so strongly not to be the man that he is forced to be, that he is willing, if not desiring, to get lost in this parallel world for good. However, the involvement of dreams brings into question the idea of reality. Can someone really know the difference between a dream world and real life? This is the problem Mal deals with throughout, not knowing herself well enough that the only way to explore was to dream, which ultimately led to her death. Cobb is a dynamic character due to the fact that he relinquishes his hold on the memories he's trapped in, his mind of Mal and his children. When he lets out his big secret, that he's responsible for Mal's suicide, he's finally able to accept that she isn't real. He chooses to go back to the real world, to his real children.
I miss you more than I can bear, but we had our time together. And I have to let you go.
It's heartbreaking and cathartic at the same time. Interstellar deals with the greater identity, a collective consciousness of all humanity. In a world tarnished by the catastrophes that humanity have let loose upon the planet, Cooper implores the viewers, through the narrative, to seek greater purpose and rise as a collective to rescue the human race. Interstellar can be seen as an allegory of a philosophy pioneered by Carl Sagan, who has spoken about a greater identity that connects humanity to Mother Nature. Cooper struggles internally to balance his life as a father and as an astronaut who is essentially the saviour of humanity. His outlook on life certainly trumps the nihilistic outlook of Dr. Mann and Professor Brand. Nolan opted for big existential themes, and what he manages to get across is the fact that humans, as a race, are all one. We're a speck of dust within the vastness of the universe, and it's our job, as a means of survival, to look outside our own and strive forward, united. So, what makes this scene so memorable? The answer simply lies in the plain view of the audience. The question of identity, an area honed in on the characters themselves. Bruce Wayne is a man like us, discovering another piece of him that truly defines his character. Being surrounded by something that he fears allows him to overcome the pain and suffering it has caused him in the past, literally rising from the dark into a new persona he now wears, Batman. The power of cinema is that we look within ourselves after being moved, or not moved, by certain stories and characters. Christopher Nolan takes his idea and expands his images exponentially to create worlds that feel lived in, feel as if it can take the audience by its hand with every viewing. Well, that's at least one reason to why I enjoy his films. Looking over the horizon, it's exciting to see Nolan take on a war film with Dunkirk, a historical piece in comparison to his fictional fantasies. Who knows, maybe we'll get to explore the dehumanization of man within a battlefield, or even a profound message about the importance of life. Along with the themes of idealism versus cynicism and self-deception, identity weaves in and out of his filmography, an area so complex yet resonant enough to make Nolan's films likeable, rewatchable, and most importantly, relatable.